Hey comic book fans, and welcome to your one-stop shop for everything DC Comics to creator-owned to a little bit Marvel. My name's David, and welcome to the Comic Fix. Now, I'm going to jump on with this week with American Vampire. Pearl and Skinner Sweet are still checking off people on the blacklist. But Scott Snyder wants to take it into a little different route. He goes into the psyche of Pearl. Now, Pearl, her husband is dying, and Pearl made the promise that she will never transform her husband into a vampire. So she's watching her husband die. But to get the help that she needs, she goes to this secret society, and they tell her, go and kill these people, and we'll help your husband. Now, what happens in this book? Does the husband die? Does she get to check off another person off her list? Well, you just have to read the book to find out. So, let's get into the good, the bad, and whether or not you should pick this book up. The good. I really like the psyche of Pearl in this issue. We're with an issue where it's part 3 of a 6-part story arc. Part 3 can usually be a story that can go nowhere, where you got the characters just in a bind, but never having any forward progression throughout the story. Well, and here you do. And you get to see Pearl go through a psyche of watching her husband die and denying that it's actually happened. Now, me personally, I actually work in the medical field. I've seen people go through this so many times. It was really cool to see Scott Snyder get into the psyche of Pearl as she's going through this ordeal. There's some great action in here, and the artist does a fantastic job at conveying Scott Snyder's message in this book. The book is very beautiful, and it's just a book that keeps on building and building and building. And with me just reading the first 3 issues, or starting with American Vampire on this story arc, I'm really glad I did. It's a really good jumping on point. Anybody could pick this book up and read it. And the ending to this issue just makes you go, oh my god. Because after reading the first issue of American Vampire that I read was issue like 28, and I read it and I was like, I want to know more. So I went and read the first story arc, and the repercussions in this, it's just a natural building on character, and I mean, it's just really good. I mean, I cannot suggest anybody else go and pick this book up. I mean, if you like vampires and you don't want them to sparkle, they don't sparkle here. They just kick major ass. So I'm going to give American Vampire issue number 30 a 5 out of 5. And now we're going to go on to the DC Comics. And this is stuff that Geoff Johns did this week, because goddamn did he do a big load of comics this week. Kicking things off is with Justice League issue number 12. And here you can see the cover. The cover is very beautiful, and it has Wonder Woman and Superman making out. Now, I am going to be doing a video on how I think about this whole relationship thing and where it's going to go. And let's get into the meat of this book. The final battle with Graves is here. And in the end, will this Justice League think to themselves, are we doing the right thing for humanity? Or are we doing it for our own selfish greed? It's a good look into who these characters are and what they believe in. And it makes them question everything that's going on. And in here, as you can see on the cover, a relationship does start to build. And it builds in a way that it's really natural, and I'm really glad to see. And I'm not really ashamed, or I'm not scared to see Superman with anybody else besides Lois Lane. I mean, I'm fine with him being with Wonder Woman. It's been done before. But if you want a good book that questions who the Justice League are and why are they doing what they're doing, go pick this book up. So let's get on to the good, the bad, and whether or not you should pick this book up. The good. So, as you can see on the cover, as I already said, you see Wonder Woman and Superman making out. And in here, it's very natural in how it happened. There's this great moment in there where you see Wonder Woman talking to, what's his name? Steve Trevor. Steve Trevor's been beaten almost to death, and you see her at the hospital with him. And you see her saying to him, basically, I knew that something was going to happen, and I didn't want to see you get hurt, but you did. And I'm really sorry about it, and I really care about you, but I cannot have a relationship with you because stuff like this will happen. And I just love the way that Jim Lee can just convey that whole scene. It could have been easily a boring scene to be had, but no, there is actually some weight to it, and you feel for what Wonder Woman's doing. And then to protect Steve Trevor, she goes and makes a relationship with Superman, a guy who cannot get hurt, who's a god among beings. And so she goes out with him, or she makes out with him. And I just felt like she's trying to protect Steve Trevor with doing this. And it was just so well conveyed, and something I was not expecting. I was expecting, when I heard about this, I thought, oh, it'll just be a little ploy to get the book, more sales on the book, and not have as much substance in the content. Well, you get that with this. The only bad things I can really say is that with the Graves, I thought his storyline was cut short because of the 0 issues that are coming next month or next week. And that was one of the things that I thought it was not as deeply looked at as it could have been. So that's one thing I was really disappointed with. And another thing I thought was pretty good about this issue is that Jim Lee, the guy who did the coloring and the inking, they let Jim Lee's art do the speaking. And they didn't try to put too much color in there or too much just blacks. They actually let Jim Lee just do his art naturally, and it felt really natural, and that's where his art shines the best. Because there's been a couple issues in Justice League where the colorist just takes over, and it makes Jim Lee's art look not like Jim Lee. But you don't get that in this issue. You get a very natural Jim Lee art, and it's just beautiful throughout. And if you're not picking up Justice League, this is actually a really good time to pick it up, because this Geoff Johns is finally picking up speed, and you can see where all the 12 issues are kind of rolling into a story arc that's going to be really cool. And you do get a preview for those story arcs in this issue, and it just makes me so excited for 2013. I have been really down on this series, but the series has been picking up steam pretty good for the past 3 months. And so I'm going to give Justice League issue number 12 a 4 out of 5. Really good book, and I'm so glad I stuck with this series. Because with how the series was going in a way I thought was uninteresting. I didn't know where the story was going, and I didn't think Geoff Johns knew where it was going. But now it finally feels like he knows where it's going, and we're finally going someplace. Next up is Justice League International issue number, or the annuals. Now we're into the annuals. I was really hesitant about picking this book up. I mean, I read all 12 issues of Justice League, and I thought, well, what can the annual do that the series hasn't already done? Well, I was wrong. I was way wrong. The storyline is, OMAC has been taken over by Brother Eye. There's a big battle, and some of the people will not make it. There's some revelations in here, and it just makes you think, wow, can the series get any better with the ending? And is this really the ending? Because it is the end for the Justice League International, but for these characters, it's actually not. And I do think, in maybe the 4th wave or 5th wave, we will actually see these characters coming back in their own book, but in a new way. And we do get a name for what they're called after the whole fiasco with the Justice League International. And I think they're known as the Global Guardians. And man, I was just like, okay. Because I was really enjoying these characters as the Justice League International book started progressing. Once it got past issue 7, the storyline started to pick up speed, and the characters were getting more defined. And who would have said that about Godiva? I think that's what her name is. The guy with the hair, that she can control her hair to do whatever she wants. She was a crappy character when I first got introduced to her, but through the last 12 issues, I finally started to enjoy her character and get more in depth into who she is. And it's just been a fun series to be had, and this annual was something that I was not expecting. The only bad is that when it first started and I got all this action scenes, I was kind of like, okay, this is what this whole book is going to be. But then after it started to have a question with a revelation, and then a question, and then another revelation, and then another question, I felt like I was watching Lost. And this book was really good. If you're a person who's been reading Justice League International from the beginning, or has been just reading just from a couple issues, this is an actual really good issue, and it's actually worth $4.99. You get all your money's worth in this book, and it has only one artist throughout the whole entire book, I believe. And that's where I think that this book has just gone way over from all the other annuals that have been out there. But there was one little thing that irked me, is that when you get introduced to Blue Beetle, if you haven't been reading Blue Beetle in his series, he's been wanting to have somebody help him out on how to be a hero. And in the previous issue, you saw Booster Gold be in be in Blue Beetle's book, and they have a big old fight. And Blue Beetle says, or Booster Gold says, "Okay, I was just testing you. Come over to Justice League International base or whatever, and you'll learn more about. I could teach you more." Kind of thing. Where in here, you get Blue Beetle coming in, and he says something along the lines. I thought Cyborg was going to be here because I wanted him to explain to me about my Scarab. And I was like, Cyborg has never been mentioned in the whole Blue Beetle series. So where was this coming in? But all in all, fun book. I suggest everyone go out and pick up, I would suggest everyone go pick up the trades. And it's just a series I'm sad to see go. But I know it'll be coming back in some form or another. And it has to, with all those questions that haven't been answered, that were just thrown in there, that were just like, oh my god, what's going to happen to these certain characters, and did they live or die? Really cool stuff. Oh, if I didn't give it a score, I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5. Now on to a book which kind of disappointed me. And it's Geoff Johns again with Aquaman. So, the storyline is that the others have called on Mera to help them find Aquaman. Aquaman is about to have a battle with Black Manta, and the others are going to try to help Aquaman. Now, will they get there in time, or will Black Manta finally win the day? Well, have to read this book to find out. In this issue, there was a lot of build-up. I mean, we've been getting build up throughout this whole entire story arc with the others to this battle with Black Manta. And did it deliver? Well, no. I mean, you got Black Manta in a couple panels, but that's about it. And I was expecting a lot more. Especially with the Zero issue coming out next month for this book. I expected the storyline to end and have a fresh start with issue number 13 for new readers who picked up issue number 0. Where no, you don't get that. You get a build-up without any payoff. Yes, there is a death in this whole entire book, but that death just did not have any significance for me. It may have had significance for the character of Aquaman, but I already knew that he wanted to really hurt Black Manta, but now he wants to kill Black Manta because Black Manta killed one of his friends. And this issue was beautiful art, but the substance in here was really lacking. You can easily have picked up the last issue of Aquaman, skipped this one, had issue number 13, and felt like you haven't missed much. And that's what I'm really sad to see, because I've really been enjoying Aquaman, but this issue in particular, I expected a huge battle between Black Manta and Aquaman. Did not get there, and it was just a disappointing book. That's all I can really say about it. Just disappointing. I mean, I'm going to give this book a 2.5 out of 5 because I didn't feel like, for me, it was a book that I needed to pick up. And I can easily pick up issue number 13 to get the full story and the full feel of it. Where no, now I have to wait 2 months for this battle that I've been waiting for. That didn't come in this book. So I'm going to give, as I already said, 2.5 out of 5. Disappointing. Now on to my last review for this video. And that is the Green Lantern's Annual #1. Hal Jordan and Sinestro find themselves buried by Black Hand. They found themselves in their own grave. Hal Jordan tries to escape, and he eventually does. And he notices Sinestro has been buried also. And there's this great line in there where Hal Jordan says something along the lines, should I be crying or rejoicing? And should I actually save Sinestro? And that was when I was like, man, Hal Jordan has some choices here. And that's one thing I liked about this whole entire book. It was an annual that had substance in there. And you'll see in my next video when I do some other annuals, there was not much substances in those other books. But in this book, there was substance, there was consequences, and there was questions that you want answered. And if you've been, like me, been reading all the Green Lantern books, we're so excited for this book. This book delivered. The art in here by Ethan Van Sciver, beautiful. I mean, this is the first time I ever actually seen him on art. Wow, man, he does a fantastic job, and I can see why. When he comes onto the book, everything is going to matter, and there's going to be something that's going to be building on for years to come. And that's all I heard about the guy, and man, did he deliver. Because I haven't been reading the Green Lantern for long. Only time I really started with the Green Lantern was in a couple of the volumes I picked up before the New 52, and then I started with the picking up the single issues with the New 52. So I was really excited to read this and see what the whole hype is about this artist, and man, does he deliver. And also with the storyline with Hal Jordan, we also get the storyline with the Guardians, and the Guardians going to go and free the first Green Lantern. And that was just really cool, and I just love the point where the Guardians go into the prison that they set up for the first Green Lantern. You see all these other Guardians basically keeping this the first Guardian at bay and keep him locked up. And it was just really cool scenes. And you see how everything's tinkering in the Guardian's head. And I was just really enjoying it. I mean, reading these first two annuals, first 2 or 3, I don't forget how much I reviewed. Yeah, first 2 annuals, they're lots of fun. And they are only the 2 or 3, because the Flash I would consider people picking up. But the other 2, not so much. But this one, definitely pick up. If you're a Green Lantern fan, if you're just a comic book fan and a fan of Geoff Johns, pick this book up. You will not be disappointed in the least. I'm going to give the final total with this book a 4.5 out of 5. It's a fun book, and I really could find little faults in it. The only fault that I felt is that I was expecting to see a little bit of, I think his name Vaz, who is in the Free Comic Book Day on DC Comics. I was expecting to see more of him or see his origins, but as I started to read, you're going to get the origins for him in the 0 issue that's going to be coming out next week. Yeah, because it comes out next week for Green Lantern. So, some really good books in here, and I was glad I got to read those first before I went on to the next books. Now, in the next video, I'm going to be doing some reviews of the Superman Annual, the Flash Annual, the Detective Comics Annual, and some other fun books. So, if you're a new watcher, subscribe up top, and if you're an old watcher, like on the bottom. My name's David, this is The Comic Fix, and I'll see you guys next time.